So today I want to talk about the power of ritual, and especially morning ritual. And what I mean by that is that any sort of practice or something that you can do, especially in the beginning of the day, is the best because it will allow you to build the space and make the space to meet yourself and have that time for introspection, and also to really set the tone for the day and have influence on how you're gonna approach the day, and how you carry out through the day. And of course, things in life happen. Things in life happen, so it's really beautiful to be able to kind of prepare yourself, and if things that come at you are a little bit difficult or more challenging and you have obstacles, that you're able to cruise by them or jump over them, or sometimes you're not, but it makes everything a little bit more dependable, and you're less kind of swayed by the things that happen throughout the day. And this really doesn't have to be, I think, the word ritual, I think some people sometimes have resistance to because it is some airy-fairy spiritual thing, but it really doesn't have to be that way, and it can really be something that is a lot more practical. Yeah, it can be practical, it can be physical, emotional, mindful, spiritual. Really, it's your practice, so you can really do whatever you want. And I started incorporating morning practices and morning rituals into my day probably about a few years ago, when it was around the time when I got diagnosed with arthritis, that I happened to be at work and flipping through this book, and it was a book on Ayurveda, actually, and I had never been introduced to Ayurveda before. Little did I know at the time that it would be a huge foundation for how I've built my life the past couple of years. But anyways, found this book, opened it to some random page, and was like, whoa, this makes so much sense. This could have a really big impact on how to create positive influences and positive changes in my life. So if you're not familiar with Ayurveda, it can be pretty complicated, so I'll try and break it down into something a little bit more simplified. But essentially, within Ayurveda, nothing is separate from the environment, or nothing is separate from nature, and everything, nothing is separate, as simple as that. And within Ayurveda, each individual, from the moment of conception, we are given, or we have a certain ratio of tendencies, and these tendencies or characteristics are kind of under these little umbrella constitutions or doshas, and they're Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And Vata, they're all kind of ruled by the elements. So Vata is ruled by air and ether, which I have a lot of natural, those are where my tendencies kind of gravitate towards. And if anyone, I'm not going to go too much into the specific tendencies of each one, but if anyone would like any resources for that, or information, or has any questions for me, like I'm not an expert, but I do have enough information and enough understanding that I could probably say something on it. So Vata is air or ether or wind, Pitta is fire, and Kapha is earth and water, so like mud, basically. And so within each of these constitutions are certain tendencies, and these are emotional, these are physical, these are also, they branch out into different things, different qualities. And within Ayurveda, you can focus on, there's yogic practices, there's pranayama, so breath work, diet is a huge part of Ayurveda. And so it's really wonderful to be able to kind of tap into and find out about what your actual natural tendencies are. And also from that, we also have our constitutions of like what we are kind of in the moment, because as everything in nature does, everything changes constantly. So by learning about what we kind of were like from origin and where we are now, we're able to, and by reading our environment and what that kind of would prescribe, we're able to kind of drop in and honor what we need at any given moment, and that does become more intuitive over time as well. But yeah, so we can really learn to really learn to kind of heal ourselves and be our own doctors in some sort of way, although this isn't a replacement for any sort of other treatment really. It's a really good foundation to work from, but of course, and I'm only speaking for myself, but if anyone actually has any serious things going on, I do recommend that you do see a medical practitioner of some sort of your choosing, because yeah, it's not really a replacement for that, but it can be a really beautiful foundation to work from and to build from. So where was I? So yeah, within, like everything else in nature, we as humans, oh, I lost my train of thought. Yes, okay, so yeah, we as humans have certain biorhythms, like everything else in nature, that if we can really look to and try and understand, then we're able to kind of give, what we need in that moment that goes along, that will help that most flow accurately. Or if you can think of our bodies being a well-oiled machine, and we're incredibly resistant. We're incredibly resilient, so we can withstand a lot. But if we know what to offer our bodies and our minds and everything like that, it can be like a well-oiled machine, and everything will work hopefully a lot better is the goal, and we can live with more vitality and balance, and just generally feel more full in our lives. And of course, when we feel full within ourselves, without a doubt, our interaction with our environment and our daily experiences and life can like totally shift. That is pretty boundless in that sort of sense. So yeah, I lately have been going to bed like super early, so that definitely helps. But yeah, I recommend when you wake up, in the morning especially, or at night, or any time in the day, but especially in the morning is a really beautiful time to make the time for this. And if you can wake up and find something that you're really inspired by, this is really good to make it something that you really enjoy doing, or something that you just want to incorporate in your life. Like if you want to build a meditation practice, or you want to practice your handstands or your breath work, or you want to write, or you want to read, or you want to make music, that's a thing. Like it's really for you, it's not for anyone else, so you can really pick like whatever it is. And I do highly suggest that you pick 1 or 2 or maybe 3 maximum to start off with, because I definitely have the tendency to either want to do basically be all or nothing, and then nothing sticks, and then I'm all over the place. And it's okay to not fulfill but to fulfill these rituals every single day. We're human, things come up, we're not fucking perfect, but the really wonderful thing about them is that when we create these sort of things as a backbone for our life, we have something to fall back on, something to rely on. And sometimes I wake up and you know what, my ritual is literally doing nothing. I end up on the floor and wrapped up in a blanket. Or sometimes that's like the full spectrum. And so what I've found really useful is to maybe make a whole list of all of when I was starting out, I would make a whole list of all the things that that I wanted to work on. Or within Ayurveda, there is recommended practices that you can use. And like I said, if anyone wants resources or book recommendations or websites or anything, I'm totally happy to provide that. But anyways, so let's see, so you make a list, and pick 1 or 2 of these things that you really feel makes you full in a day, or makes you feel ready to be out there in the world, and what's going to keep you centered and connected and keep you from sort of falling under in a sort of sense. And I also find that I try and either keep my phone off the night beforehand, or just keeping it somewhere that's like maybe out of the room or on silent or whatever, just so that I'm not really distracted, because it's really, I find, is really, really important and really pivotal if we can meet ourselves without distraction before we bring all the other sensory overload of like the world, essentially. Because within Ayurveda, like, I do feel that it's really beautiful and really holistic, but there's also certain limitations to it in a way, because we do live in the modern world and we don't live up on a mountain somewhere. But there's really beautiful, simple practices that we can hone in on and develop, and I also have the tendency to not want to stick to routine whatsoever. I kind of want shift and change all the time, but what I've found out over time is that when I've refined it and picked one or two things, and if I have the time or the desire to expand on that and do longer, more expansive practices, then I can do that. But the more I've kind of refined it and really found something that worked for me, the longer that it's stuck. And I find that when we refine our desires, when we kind of pick one or two things and really, really work on those, we feel success in those things and confidence in those things, and therefore actually feel more free and less trapped. But at first it can be kind of daunting, especially if you're someone that's like, I need to be in the flow all the time. But something that I've also found to be useful is to have a slight bit of structure. So for instance, some of the things that I do that I've found that I can't really go without is waking up first thing in the morning, grabbing a notebook and writing 3 pages of just like whatever shit is going through my mind. Anything, don't stop. Like about 3 pages of that, and they're pretty like large pages, like something like the size of this notebook is. And then I wake up and I just drink like tons of water, just like so much water, just because when you're sleeping you do kind of go through a detox process, and so it's really good to just flush everything out. And then I would say, and then I would try and either meditate or do some exercises just to get things moving, or meditate and have that be a little bit more structured and set, and like always do that. And then what I also have been enjoying doing the past month or so is making like a hot herbal drink or a hot herbal tonic, which I'm gonna do a whole other other video on, because that is like fucking awesome, and I can give you like a recipe as well, and just an introduction on how to incorporate herbs into your daily life in a way that your body will assimilate and actually make use of and you'll absorb. So yeah, make that hot herbal tonic or the drink, and then I just leave a space, like a little window of time to do something totally intuitive, and I can really drop into what it is that I need in that moment. And then when that's all done, I have a whole day before me, and I've hopefully a lot clearer of a mind. And I will be honest, sometimes you just feel like so satisfied and so rich and inspired, but sometimes you just don't. And that's totally cool, and that's all part of it, as well as being okay with all the things in our life and how we feel. So yeah, I like to kind of line it up or sandwich in between something that I'm working on, kind of like just gonna do it whether or not I really like it, and then leaving room for something that's just like totally free flow or inspired or intuitive. And then even throughout the day, there's certain things that I look towards, really like, setting up the space. So a way that you can set up the space is usually like with incense, or you could use Palo Santo or sage, or really anything to just kind of like make you step into the moment and then be like focused in one thing at a time as well. But that pretty much covers it. I would love it if anyone also wanted to share any rituals that they have, or things they've picked up, or any questions at all. I want me to go more in depth with my own practices. I'm totally happy to do that. Thank you.